Hello. Sorry I'm late.
Hello.
How are you? Oh, your voice is better.
Yes, thanks.
Cool. Sorry, I was in a previous meeting. I was running over a bit. Me. Get the yeah, how can the right being banned to see if he's joining as well. Okay.
Hello, hello.
Oh yeah. Hi. Hi Ben. I just saw your message. Um okay, so let me see. It's just trying to bring up the notes, the agenda for today. So today is February 10th. Okay. And now it's gone. Okay. Where is it gone? Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Yes.
All right. Sorry that took a while.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
It's just for getting some notes. Okay, so yeah, welcome to the meeting. Let's say we can start having a look at the roadmap as usual and see where we are at there. And then
Mm.
folks can provide updates based on what they have to share. But let's have a look. So we have the, where is it? The calendar view. Right. So we have defined groups of subjects that share common predicates. This is something we've discussed last
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, that's the issue that was recently assigned to me. We talked a little bit about it, Andrea, like basically just
Mm,
standardizing on the name, task run, build run, etc. So I,
yeah.
I started that doc. It still needs to be worked on. Like I said, I started it, but haven't done too much. So I will try. I'm just so swamped with so many different things. I will try to get that done. I don't think I'll be able to do it this week. I'll try it next week. Yeah, I'll make it sure I'll get it done by next week.
Okay, so right now it's on the 3rd, so we should move it at
Yeah,
least
just end
to,
of next week. Yeah, should be good.
okay.
I'll just work on it tomorrow or Friday, either one.
So let's end of next week. So I mean we meet on Monday, so we can put it to the 17th.
Oh yeah, it works.
All righty. Yeah, I don't have any update on my side for my. It's been very busy. Sorry about that.
No
I'll do
worries. Yeah,
similar
you and me
to
both.
what to what you have done for yours. This relatively mechanical changes, so I just need to find a bit of
Some
time
time. Yeah.
to make them. Yeah. Well, it's Monday. Yeah, I should be able to find a slot this week, but I'll put them to the 17th anyways, just to And then we have the
Yeah, that
enum
yeah,
string
this one was a
Yes.
little interesting. And the reason why like this hasn't been worked on is mostly because we're still in the process of like the modeling language changes, which if we select a modeling language that can, that replaces JSON schema, then this kind of just goes away, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I don't know if we need to put it on the sprint because like it just depends on the modeling language. So it's like it's blocked. It's more or less blocked on that. So I don't know
Yeah.
if there is a way to do that in GitHub without I guess just a comment.
For, for, for the various modeling language I explore, we still have the issue. It is string or enum, but the issue is present. Could not be sorry, it's an exclusive. It's a string or XOR, I could say, or enum, but it could not be both. So we still have issue. We will have always the issue.
Well, string to enums is a concept. Like it's a higher abstraction on top of enums that it is a known thing. I mean, AWS, Google, I mean, all their cloud SDKs have stringed enums. It's just that we need to choose a modeling language that can represent them, right?
I'm very curious where you see in AWS. I didn't see this in AWS API.
I worked at AWS, so I'm very familiar with them.
In the API, I work with AWS. I never see this open.
Any string constant that you say is called a string to enum.
I'm clear.
Yeah, I'll bring up the SDK and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, there's so many damn services now. Yeah, but I'll post a link in that or in the whatchamacallit, in the issue of string enums.
But it's not only the specification of the modeling language, it's how it should be translated into concrete language, Rust, Go.
Yeah, it
Text.
is. No, I mean Smithy has this concept as well, like that modeling language. So it and like I said, like Open API, you can also do it. Like string enums is a big pattern that a lot of not just AWS, not just GCP, a lot of services use it.
I mean, do you refer, Ben, to like an enum of strings, or the fact that we have the kind of open enum, if you will.
Yeah. So I think there's really confusion here because like when you say enum, right, there is like the type enum inside of like Rust and C. That is not what a stringed enum is. What a stringed enum is an abstraction on top of, it could be on abstraction on top of that enum type itself, or it could be a totally new type. All stringed enum is saying is that you have a enum, whatever we'll call it my enum, and it can only be these set of values as a string.
It's not the purpose of this. In Rust, enum is not just like in C, an int.
Right.
Enum is also used to polymorphisms, etc. In Rust. The purpose here is to say it's not an open. If you use enum, it's not it's not open. I mean, you define all the value with all the possible value. If you say it's a string, it's open. It can be any value. And the issue I mentioned here is could not be a type, could not be both. It could not be closed or open.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Again, because that's an abstraction. You're really limiting to the language. Like in your SDK, for example, if you want to enforce an enum, regardless whether or not it's a string, you add the validation at the class level, the object level, the method, etc. You just need to find the place to add the abstraction.
Yes, but I will reread the tickets. You mentioned that you want to add some example and verify this point.
Yeah. And like I said, it is a pretty big concept. I understand because enum is so widely used, because it can mean multiple different things, like you have like the enum, the actual type that's like described in C++, and Rust. Then you have enumeration, like that's like in Java, which is like something, that is very similar. But in Java, you can literally have stringed enums. Like literally, that's a concept in Java. Like you can write a stringed enum. So these concepts exist. And what you need to do, since your language is very, very low level, you need to write those same abstractions that is implemented in Java into your SDK, basically. But yeah, look at Java. Java has stringed enums. Like I totally forgot about that. Yeah, and here is the example. I'll just throw it in the chat real quick. I just found a good Stack Overflow. Actually, I'll just throw this in the chat. Yeah, but that's how you do stringed enums.
To be clear, in Rust you have it because in Rust, when you declare an enum, each enum could be a completely different type if you want. So it's for all the language I use, Rust is the most powerful in of enum.
Yeah, and I think too, like when we talk about enums, we need to make sure that we are in agreement on what we are saying the enum is, because you're coming at it only from a Rust point of view. But that's not what we're saying. We're saying enums is just a type with these known values. That's all we're saying. And so you just need to, when you generate your SDK, you just need to model it that way. You don't have to use an enum if it doesn't work, the Rust enum if it doesn't work, but you just have to model it some way inside of your SDK.
Yes, and it's why I open this ticket. Often we declare in the SDK enum, but it's open, so it's not an enum, it's a non-exhaustive list of value. So it's become a string. So it's why I say we have this issue when we will generate, it will be a string, it will not be an enum in reality.
Right. But that's, again, it's up to your generator, and you can customize it to a point where like you make it a custom type, like your string to enum type. I'm sure you can do that in Rust. It would just be
I don't talk for Rust, I talk for Java or anything. I mean, when we in the ticket, when we say it could be I guess we have it for some status like failure, success, completed.
Mm-hmm.
On one side, we say it should be failure, success, or etc. Or it could be a string. But what will happen in reality, if it could be a string or one of the three value, the type that the SDK will say, it's always a string in reality. And sometimes this string is equals to success, failure, or something.
Right.
But it's not an enum. That means in reality, it's a string, and the three value we mentioned are just example or possible value. So it's not an enum. It's the purpose of this ticket. It say when we use enum, it's for a closed exhaustive list, a closed list of possible value. Whatever the value is, it's a string, it's an integer, it's a struct, whatever, but it's a closed, an exhaustive list. It's not open. When we say it's a string, it's open. It could be any values that match the constraint of the string if we have a pattern or something else. It's where I say it's
not necessarily. I mean, I get what you're saying, but again, it's up to your generator. Because what I mean by that is that you can say you can have these 3 values that are strings that are part of the quote unquote enums, right? But it can also support just any string as well, right? So I think that's still okay, but like I said, I think the modeling language will handle that because there are ways, like for instance, in Smithy, you could specifically say, hey, this is a string and these are like potential values. So I mean, that's maybe the path that we go. But for JSON schema, but I see what you're saying with JSON schema because you're saying it's a closed type and it's an open type. But ultimately, what we're saying is that it's an open type with these potential values that you're allowed to use, and you could generate from those, right? So maybe like we were just not using JSON schema appropriately because we were saying, these are the 3 expected values from that. I don't know. But like I said, like I think this will go away in the future because like I said, we're moving away from JSON schema. And I think, depending on, I haven't looked at async unfortunately, but depending on how they model this concept of string to enums, like where it could be any one value plus more, it's doable. It just depends on how you do the generation, right? But yeah, but I do see like where the confusion lies though. So I think what we need to do is for this particular case, when we say that it's a string and it has these values that we want to generate with it as constant, what do we call that? Do we call that an enum or do we call that something different? Because that's really what the question comes down to.
Yeah, I think from a validation point of view, right? That's the addition, the list of specific values that we provide cannot really be used for validation. But downstream consumers could know that these are some expected values and have certain logic associated to it, and you could have like constant defining the code that are associated with these
Exactly.
values. So I think that's, but I mean, from a strictly from a validation point of view, I mean, there's nothing more that you can do than validating it as as a string. Because if you have one of the valid values plus a character, it's a valid value. So it's so I think yeah, I don't know how that maps in the language that we use. I mean, or in generator. Of course, I mean, like one of the points in the beginning was to have as little customization as possible, so we don't have to maintain custom code. So I would say whatever is most convenient once we have a language, we decide, if we define it as a string from validation point of view, but there is a way or a hook that allows us to define this extra values as constants somewhere in the library so that you can use them as a downstream consumer of the SDK or something like that.
And I think too, so David, I think too, is that we were using enums incorrectly, not like the correct way. What we were using enums for is just to provide constants, like Andrea was saying. So I do understand what you mean now by confusing after like really thinking about it. But I think too, because Smithy allows this, I think we'll be okay. If we go with Smithy. If we go with something different, then we'll have to figure it out. But yeah, when we say enumeration, we need to be clear what we mean by that, which we did not do. And the fact that we had custom generators for each of our languages just made it much more I guess, just, we have custom generators. So if you try to use another generator that doesn't adhere to our semantics, that's going to have some problems, right? So I think we just need to be clear on how we define enums. What we mean here is actually not enums. What we mean here is constants, like string constants that people can use, right?
Yes, it's why I mentioned more example, because as a generator or as a parser, a parser
You would have
typically
problems. Yes.
will receive the value. It will not say if it's
Mhm.
constant or something. It will say it's
Right.
the
Right.
value. It could be,
Right.
as we mentioned, success, for example, because I read some status. Is
Mhm.
it success in lowercase, in uppercase, in a mix level, etc.? If we have no constraint, anyone can put anything. It's the when with close value like an
Yeah.
enum,
Yeah.
we are sure it, etc. With
Yeah.
open, it means that every client or server, every generator of message and receiver of the events will,
Yeah.
should have its own interpretation of each value.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And like I said, we were using enum wrong, not the generators. We were just using it wrong, and our generators were using it wrong. So that's actually our fault. So can you do me a favor, Andrea, and rename this to stringed our uses of like clarif or it's not removing cuss, it's like um I don't know how we can reword this, but we want to say basically that remove enums for string constants, maybe something like that. To kind of help get the message across. But like I said, I think in choosing a different modeling language, we could definitely like I said, depending on the modeling language, this problem will go away. Specifically if we use something like Smithy, because we can provide the constants there directly, and they're not, I don't think they're known as enums. So so that might be pretty beneficial there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think enum or string in the issue title that David created refers to the exact construct that we use within the JSON schema.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know how to, but I think we know. I mean, I tried to track in the comment what we discussed, and so I think we know what this is about. Um, I don't know if that's something we should try and do now in any case, because whether it
Modeling,
is,
yeah.
I mean, if we're going to change like the language that we use to describe these or not, so once we have a decision on that, then we need to kind of model a solution for this based on the language that we have. So
Yeah. And then I think too, to ensure that we are good, um, just like a good spec, we need to make sure that when we use a word like enum, for example, like we actually do mean like enum, right? Like we don't, yeah. I think that's what the real confusion came down to, is that we were just using it incorrectly. Um and yeah, I can definitely see the confusion there. Yeah, so okay, cool. Yeah, so sorry about that, David. It took me a long time to like get my head around what you're talking about there, but now that I understand it, I think we can solve it once we choose the new modeling language. But I think too, we can also be clear, in the future, like whenever we introduce concepts, or like, whenever we are talking about things, if we're using a word wrong, we just need to, make sure that, we're doing our best. Well, it is always our best intention, but if someone calls, like if someone says, oh, you're using this word wrong, I think that'll make us it'll make us uh I guess it'll be a little bit more clear. Because yeah, when I read that issue, like removing confusing type of enum or string, it's a little confusing, because it's like what do you mean, and I think what it comes down to is that we're just using enum wrong because of how we generate from enums in our custom SDKs. But you're absolutely right here.
Enum is for a closed list, and string is for open. So we have to be clear if it's open or closed.
Yeah. And I think that is, I think that is very, very clear. And I think too, yeah, I'm just trying to see how we can rework. Okay, so I think the GitHub issue comment that Andrea just put I'm just hoping that we don't, come back to this issue is what my concern is, because we've kind of like jumped back and forth on it a few times, but yeah, I think once we choose a modeling language, I don't know if you've looked into it at all, Smithy at all, David, but I think that should probably help.
I don't know. I just start looking at Smithy and I'm not sure it will match our needs, but we can.
Okay, yeah. So here, Smithy says enums are open.
I will look at it. Currently I see other issue with the Smithies and
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
All right. Yeah, well, I think that's it from the roadmap point of view. I've seen you added a new
Yes.
item.
Yes.
Ben, shall I open this?
Yes, please. And actually going back, I think that's why I was confused as well, because I've always used enum because it coming from AWS, we always made enums were always open. They weren't closed. But I realized that that's not the standard between all languages. So that's actually my fault. So sorry again, Dave. I'm just like I'm like, why did I think that? And then I'm looking it back. I'm like, oh, at AWS, enums were always considered open. So that's probably where that habit came from. But yeah, so this is approval events. So this was mentioned many moons ago. When we were
before we switch, I just opened the page because I it on Smithy and enums it's declared as a fixed set of value. So it's not
but
open.
look, but enums are considered open, meaning it's backwards compatible change to add a new member. Previously generated keys must not fail when they encounter an unknown enum.
Yes,
okay,
you can add, but it's not, you cannot add any value. You can add in the future. It's backward compatible, I could say. But it's not.
No, it says client implementation must provide the capability of sending and receiving unknown enum values.
I will.
Yeah, so it's open. It is open. But yeah, and like I'll send you the exact link here. Then you can take a look. It might be a little bit easier. Just read the last sentence. But yeah. So for approval events, so we mentioned this a while back. When we were creating ticket events, we were originally the use cases that we're talking about. We're talking about all the different ticket use cases, and then there was one for specifically approvals, and we were trying to figure out where approvals could live. Or like, oh, should it live in a ticket or should approval be actually its own subject? And after some much thinking, I think approval should be its own subject, given that you can have approvals in a pipeline, you can have approvals in a ticket, you can have approvals in like a GitHub PR if you even wanted to, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we should probably have some sort of approval event. I don't know much else other than because I haven't thought about this in a very long time, but I think it's something that we're going to need going forward. So I just wanted to create the issue here and kind of outline, like in Spinnaker, there's something called manual judgment, which acts as basically an approval stage. That would be nice to be able to send that event. Then consuming systems could say send emails or notify, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it'd be a really nice one to have.
Yeah, I think this came up a few times.
Yep.
I think some type of approval is commonly found in pipelines or software factories. I think there could be like human approvals. So like actually someone stamping and pressing a button, say yeah, it's okay, and then that is implemented somehow. I think it might be interesting to include like automated approvals as well. I don't know if that's something but you could have like some kind of policy system that process your whatever request, and then if it matches the policy or the rules that you set, then you get an approval from that with a record of kind of, you could have like a SHA of the policies that you have in Git, so you can go back and see, okay, well, with this version of the policies, this was approved, and then you have the entire story of what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure. Long story short, I think it makes sense to have approval events. as their own subject. But yeah, so probably need some kind of modeling and like define what we mean by approval and
yeah, and create a proposal for it and all that jazz. But yeah, I think I just wanted to create a GitHub issue because I realized that I didn't create one when we first talked about it. So I was like, oh man, I really missed the mark there. But yeah, so I created one now. I don't know if I'll have any time to really work on this anytime soon. So I mean, if anyone else wants to pick it up, I'll be happy to assign it to them. Or if you want to take it, Andrea, you're more than welcome. But I know you're pretty busy as well. But I feel like we're going to need this sooner rather than later. And if by the time that we need it, if no one's picked it up, then I'll probably just like get around to it. But yeah, let me know if you're interested, Andrea or David. Either one, I'm fine with.
Yeah, no, I think I mean, I think it's a valid concept. I don't think I have the bandwidth right now to tackle it. But when we get to a point where we're actually trying to use CDEvents for something and we need it, then as you said, with someone will go and do it because we need it at a point in time. So yeah. Sorry, I'm not volunteering to implementing it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was just saying, I was just saying if anyone had the bandwidth, but it sounds like we're all pretty swamped, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you guys wanted to bring up today?
Nothing else. I am curious what you found with Smithy though, David. We have some time left. Are you okay using that time, Andrea, to talk about Smithy? Or if not, then I can always just message him.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, we still have like some time in the meeting, so
Okay, great. So David, you said that you saw some issues with Smithy. I'm just kind of curious, like what you found.
As I previously mentioned, Smithy is really focused on API and REST, like I could say REST API. It means
Right.
you have to create service, it's mandatory, and this service that define your resource, and inside those resource, the struct itself that we want, and it's for the generator for the I try with one generator to be honest, so the one of the demo. It seems that we have to generate everything. I mean, we generate a client or a server. We could not generate only the model or something like that. So it means that we will have to generate everything and then extract maybe the model. So it's a bit more work. And maybe part of the validation constraints, etc., are not included into the model itself, but more on the receiver or producer of the message, like we say for the server side of the client, on the API, the client.
Mm-hmm.
So the usage is very good for, I think, for what is the goal of Smithy, create a full client or a full server, like for a gRPC service, but not just the protobuf model, if I did the parallels with protobuf. And also the implementation of the wire protocol, JSON in our case, really depend on the implementation of the plugin or the provider. Smithy rely a lot on the plugin to say how stuff should be generated for Java, for Rust, for Scala, Kotlin, etc. So the way but doesn't say the an HTTP, and it depends also of the tray, HTTP, etc. But doesn't say, hey, the way this model should become when it is wired on JSON, Avro, or whatever, because it's open to what we want. It's not very, very clear, but I'm just at the beginning of reading the doc and tries a few samples. Well, what I read, it's very focused on protocol, on high level model and communication definition.
Okay, interesting.
So it's yes, it's not just on the message and what is translated. Our goals is more focused on the message itself. We didn't define what is the endpoint, what is the client, and this kind of stuff today. At least.
I put a link in here. This link actually has a lot of information that might be very helpful for these particular questions or issues that you were finding. So I'm curious because like Smithy's very configurable and very like it supports plugins, et cetera. And there's even a model plugin which generates just a single model file. Well, it generates it as a single file. So that's another thing that I think you can use that model plugin to just be by itself. So I haven't, like I said, I haven't used Smithy since 1.0. So they might have changed this, but you used to be able to just generate just the models, but that may have changed. So if that is the case, then yeah, you're right. Then this probably will not work. But my hope is that you still should be able to do that. but who knows, right? It's been a little bit. But yeah, please take a look at that link that I sent, David, and that might be useful.
I opened the link. It was always the page on which I was.
Oh, you'd look. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it's probably the best one to get like most of the information. But yeah.
I also look at they mention a repository, awesome suite of awesome Smithy, sorry, where they list all plugins, etc. Some plugins was a little bit intimidating. I look at the Rust one, so lot of code and stuff, and some Kotlin, because every plugin seems to be written in Kotlin or Java, from what I saw.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, let me know, David, because like I'm really curious about this. But it sounds like this. I mean, looking just like at the docs, it looks like you can't just generate the models anymore, which really sucks.
It's not the only point. So something, as mentioned, when I explore something, I try when I explore the alternative, is how I can change maybe a type. My examples,
Right.
We use URI reference
Mhm.
currently to define some scalars, and I look at, is it possible to say in the generated code to use a type, a dedicated type for URI reference? But it really depends on the generator, and if we have to rewrite a full generator or just to customize some, but on some of them it's named type mapping. So it's stuff I'm looking to say, hey, I want in this specific case to use this type instead of a pure string, I could say.
Right. Okay. So that is a few issues then. That sucks. Okay. All right. So what I might do is I might go ahead and reach out to one of my old coworkers and ask if we can still just generate models. And if he says no, then yeah, that's gonna kind of like shoot this down. But Smithy is like, man, it was so good when I used it. I really hope they didn't eliminate that functionality because that was like a necessity that that we'll need as well.
To be honest, the other tools I explore have also this kind open API or async API have also this small limitation, but I was able to work around it with very simple generator, custom plugins, or by just declare one endpoint and say, hey, yes, it is one endpoint, but don't generate it. They have some of the open API generator, by example, have an option to say, don't generate the stuff. just the model. But in the specification, I have to declare this, else it didn't find the entry point to find everything.
Ah, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So
Okay,
there's
okay.
some workaround.
Okay, okay. Well, at least there's some workarounds for other. I hope there's the same workaround for Smithy because that would be a real pain if like but let me see. Let me see. I'll reach out to an old coworker. I'll see what he says and hopefully that's no longer the case. And oh, if it is no longer the case we can just generate models, then we'll have to look elsewhere to something that's that can only generate models or see if that's something that they're willing to support even. I mean, we could write a plugin that does that, but that's like really crappy that we'd have to write code just to do this. We want something that kind of like works out of the
Today
box.
I mentioned for the 3 or 4 I try,
Yeah,
we will have to write our own custom generator or models.
no matter what.
No
Yeah.
matter what we want. We could use the provided one to have something generic and simple,
Mhm.
but with very few constraints, like I
Right,
mentioned,
right.
using URI reference, package, etc. So
Mhm.
we will have a string, int, and very basic stuff. So it will
Gotcha.
they will work. But at some point, we will maybe want to allow contributor like to be able to provide more fine-tuned model, etc. At least for the Rust one, today I use a lot of fine. We have very type check, exact type
Mhm.
check. So I cannot inject something that doesn't match an URI into a reference
Mhm.
because we say it's a URI. So it's type checking by the compiler.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, okay. Okay. There's a lot of okay. So that is unfortunate, but that is the world that we live in. So, okay, well, thank you again for doing the dive on this, David. Seriously, it's seriously so much appreciated. I would love to be able to help and do some more diving from the Smithy side, but unfortunately, I'm just too swamped, so I have to go. Luckily, I could just go ask someone that that knows this information, but I just wish I had a little bit more time so I could like just help you, um but yeah, like I said, this is you don't know how valuable this is, in our decision making. But hopefully, with you playing with all the other generators, you can find the one with like the least path of resistance, and then we'll just go with that one and make it work. I think that might be the best path. And then, like I said, the next SIG meeting, which is next week, we'll just choose one. Whether it's the right one or not is irrelevant at that point. We'll just have to figure out how to make it work. All right.
Yes, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, that's all I was curious about, Andrea. So like if you had anything else, or if David, if you had anything else, I'm pretty much good to go.
Nothing else from my side.
Cool. All right. What about you, David? Anything?
No, nothing. I will continue to look at Smithy and other.
All
Okay,
right.
cool. And then send me
Thanks a
your
lot.
email, David. I'm gonna CC you on. I don't know if I can send an email. Well, let me see. All right. Uh, yeah, send me your email just in case. And if I send an email I plan on talking to Kevin. He's now the main maintainer of Smithy and just asking. But if I can't get a hold of him in email, I might just send him a message in like maybe on LinkedIn or something.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, sounds
Good to
good.
see you.
All
Have a
right,
good
thanks
one.
everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.